do here is I'll just slow it right down, and you can see as it reaches the apex, it sort of turns a different way. You'll see it just as it hits the apex, it goes round the other way. Can you see that there? So hello, welcome to this week's clinical case. This is a great case of an upper left 6 where I suppose I'm doing a more minimal preparation technique here, because what I noticed with this particular root canal, we've got one canal, the palatal, which has got a huge tube, and then we've got 2 other canals or 3 other canals where the tubes are really narrow. And I suppose you could argue that, you know, you could shape all of the canals to the same diameter, but you might ask yourself, well, what's the point in that? So you'll notice here that I am using a minimal preparation technique, and I am also gaining my working length not from hand files. We've got an automatic apex locator in use here. But before we start the case, what I do want to say is when we look at the channel analytics, we can see 50 to 60% of the people who watch these videos are not subscribers. So if I could just ask you to do one thing, it'd take you half a second, please just hit that subscribe button. It supports the channel, and I promise every time you see these videos, we get something different every week, and the videos are just going to get better and better. So I'm just going to thank you in advance for hitting that subscribe button. So let's get into the case. So the first thing we need to do is we need to place our rubber dam. In this case, you know, what I like to do is have the clamp onto the rubber dam. We place it onto the tooth, and what I'm going to use is just use a flat plastic just to move the rubber dam off the wings of the clamp. And then I like to just place my forceps back onto the rubber dam and then just open it slightly and give it a little bit of wiggle to make sure that the rubber dam fits around the tooth perfectly. In this case, it's fitted around so nicely we don't need any kind of caulking agent or any rubber dam sealer. And then we're ready to access the tooth. And I think I saw this patient for an emergency appointment, and I accessed this tooth, and we placed lead mix in there and a bit of PTFE and a bit of GI on top. But I didn't check any of the restorability in this case. And in fact, when we remove the temporary filling, we can see there's a little bit more decay remaining in the sort of distal aspect to this portion of the tooth. So the most important thing for you to do is just remove all the decay. One, because it gets rid of the decay and you know that the tooth is restorable. But also, you don't want to be doing this after the canals have been shaped, because you might get fragments of decay or dentin chippings down the canal space, and that can block it. So we can see here now we've got it all nicely cleaned out. There's no decay, and we're ready to do our shaping protocol. So the first file I'm going to use in this case, I'm going to use a 1503 mini cut file. I'm going to start with the palatal. I always think the palatal is a bit of low-hanging fruit. And don't forget, my endodontic motor is connected to an automatic apex locator. And when it hits 0, it reverses out, and it happens so quickly you'll probably miss it. So what I'll do here is I'll just slow it right down, and you can see as it reaches the apex, it sort of turns a different way. You'll see it just as it hits the apex, it goes round the other way. Can you see that there? And you know, you need eagle eyes to spot this. If I slow it down even more, you can see as it turns out. So luckily in this case, I was kind of using the rubber stopper, was sort of rubbing against the cusp as I was bringing it to length, and this kind of makes sure that the rubber stopper is at the correct working length. As we pull it out, we can see that the working length is 21.5 millimeters. And I suppose you could argue, you know, should I check this with a hand file? I'm pretty happy. I've used this endodontic motor on many occasions, and I'm happy to use my 2503 very minimal prep file here just to shape it further. And again, because it's a palatal, I feel like we need to use at least a 30 at the tip, just to make sure that, you know, we've shaped it perfectly. And then I'm going to shape the mesobuccal, same sort of thing here. I'm going to use the 1503, and you know, I'm just going to, it looks like I'm pushing it down quite firmly here, but I'm not. I'm just gently pushing it to length. You can see here that the rubber stopper is kind of getting pushed deliberately, and sometimes this doesn't work very well, so I just get my finger just to adjust the rubber stopper as it reaches the kind of the point here. I'm using the mesobuccal cusp as a reference point here, and we can see here that as it reaches the apex, as it reaches the mesobuccal cusp, it sort of spins backwards, and we know that that's at the 0 reading, and the mesobuccal working length is 20.5 millimeters. And again, it's just the same protocol, lots and lots of irrigant. I suppose in a way, in this case, I didn't recapitulate. You could argue that that is probably not the best thing to do, but I just feel like in this case it was adequate. I feel like it was adequate. And we're ready to do our distal buccal shaping. And again, it's just the same protocol again. We're just going to very, very gently push this file to length. Again, it looks like I'm pushing this quite far down, quite significantly, but I'm not. I'm just letting the file just push its way, sort of guide its way to the end of the tooth. And, straight away there, we're right at the end. We've cleaned all 3 canals. This patient's quite young, so, as we were looking into the access cavity, I could see that there was maybe a suggestion there was an MB2 orifice. So that's something that obviously needs to be negotiated and investigated. And in this case, what I'm using is a fast handpiece to remove a dentinal shelf. Again, this is really, really difficult to do without high magnification. And also, even with high magnification, you've got to be really, really, really careful. And essentially what you find with MB2s is you have this kind of denty shelf that kind of folds over the canal orifice, which can block your vision of it. So that just needs to be removed. And we can see here quite clearly that there is kind of a developmental line which moves into this canal orifice. So I'm going to first negotiate this canal orifice, this MB2 orifice, with a D-finder size 10, but I feel like in this case, as I'm kind of negotiating it down, I'm getting a little bit stuck. I'm not advancing like I'd like to, so I'm not going to push it any further than I should do. And when we pull the D-finder out, we can see here that there's quite an acute bend, and does this suggest a join with the MB1 and the MB2? Just to see if I can negotiate any further, I'm going to use a size 8 D-finder, and I do push a little bit further to length than I did with the size 10, but still I'm getting a little bit stuck. So again, I don't want to push things. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to sort of open up the coronal third, this MB2 orifice, with my 1503. And what I don't want to do is I don't want to follow this rotary file too far, because it can cut a path where it shouldn't cut a path, and you might ledge the tooth. Again, this sort of concept of file gripping, where if you're not negotiating down a canal, it's usually the friction of the rest of the file which is getting a bit stuck. So what I'm doing here is I'm just shaping out the canal space that I have negotiated, and we're hoping maybe that once we've done this, our hand file goes to length a little bit easier. And again, we can see here that once we've irrigated and aspirated, we can see that the canal orifice is pretty obvious. And also what you'll notice as we irrigate and aspirate, the MB1 and the MB2 both irrigate and aspirate at the same time. So this strongly suggests there's a join between these 2 canals. When we see this, we want to confirm a join, and the only way really to confirm a join is to place a GP cone into the correct working length in the mesibuccal, because we know we're at the working length with this particular canal. So we're just preparing the cone here, ready to place in the MB1. We're measuring it. I'm going to just very, very gently push this GP cone to length, and then we feel for the tug back. And then what we do is we get a hand file. In this case, I am using a size 8 D-finder down the MB2 canal, and then I'm just negotiating it down until we get to that point where we were getting stuck, and then I'm just feeling for that kind of spongy feeling there to see if it is actually touching the GP cone. I don't want to ram this down too much because I don't want to damage the GP cone. If it does join, we're going to just adjust the rubber stopper with this 8 in the MB2. We're going to pull this file out. We're then going to pull out the GP cone, and then we're going to inspect the end, and we can see as we pull this GP cone out and we look really, really, really closely, we can see that this D-finder has scratched the end of the GP cone. So this indicates that we are these 2 canal join, and then we obviously measure 17.5 is where the join is. And the great thing about this is we know where we need to shape our MB2 up to. We don't have to go past 17.5. We don't have to try and negotiate past 17.5, because we know that that's the point where we join. So it's safer doing it this way to check in Confluence, but also it's quicker. So again, we're just going to shape up with our 2503 up to the Confluence here, and then we're all ready to rock and roll. Everything's been shaped, everything's been cleaned, and we're ready for our cone fit radiograph. So what the first two cones are really easy, and you'll notice these cones are super thin. So these are 2503 cones, and they have a maximum diameter of 1 millimeter, and we'll talk about that later during the obturation. But as we place the palatal cone to length, I'm actually using a size 30 GP cone in this case, and it just slips past the expected working length of 20.5 millimeters, and if we just measure how far this GP cone's got, we're now measuring at 22.5 millimeters. And in this case, what we need to do now is we need to apically gauge the GP cones, because obviously we've shaped it with our master apical file to 30, but this GP cone is pushed through, meaning that apical diameter is wider than that. And the way to apically gauge essentially is you're just going to just cut the GP cone with our gutter cutter. In this case, I've cut it to 35. I'm going to push it to length. I can see that it's still pushing down, and I'm just going to very gently keep cutting the GP cone up its length until when we place the GP cone to length and we've cut it to, say, in this case, we'll cut it to a 50. We're going to place this GP cone into the palatal, and then it fits nice and snugly at the correct working length. So now it fits really nice and snugly to 20.5 millimeters. And we can see here as we measure it, we're at the correct working length. So once we have fitted the GP cone, we're obviously going to take a cone fit radiograph. I'm not going to bother putting a GP cone in the MB2 because we know that joins, and it's just all about efficiency. And when we look at the cone fit radiograph, it looks like the MB is just a little bit too longer than we'd like. So we also need to apically gauge the MB canal. So it's the same protocol as the palatal. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave all the other GP cones in place. I'm going to just remove the MB cone. So I'm going to get a brand new GP cone. I'm going to apically gauge this. I'm going to cut it a little bit narrower than it was before. I'm obviously then going to get my my measurer. I'm going to make sure I'm checking it to the correct working length. And then I'm just going to push this GP cone to length, and I'm going to feel for the tug back. And in this case, we know the working length has been measured by our apex locator. We know we've apically gauged here nicely. We're going to feel for the tug back. And then when we take the cone fit radiograph again with this new GP cone in, we can see that now it's at the correct working length. So we know that we're ready for our final irrigation protocol. And as before, you know, we're just going to remove the GP cones before we do our final irrigation protocol, and we're going to place them in a GP disinfector. And our final irrigation protocol, again, sodium hypochlorite activated, 17% EDTA activated, and a final rinse once all that sort of smear has been removed with sodium hypochlorite and activated. You know, we do a final assessment of the cavity. It looks nice, looks clean, looks super minimal. You know, you look at the MB and the DB, the orifices here are super small. And then we're ready to do our drying of our paper points. Here I'm using Wave 1 Gold paper points size 20s, because I know these are going to go to length and I'm going to clean all nicely. And then we're finally ready for our obturation. In this case, I am using a bioceramic sealer. I'm directly injecting this into the canal space. Really important, you're going to be doing that under high magnification. I'm going to introduce a disinfected hand file into the canal space to introduce the bioceramic to length. And then I'm going to slowly place my GP cone to length. And I'm slightly concerned here about putting enough bioceramic in this this canal, and then we're going to get voids. So in an unusual step, what I am using here is some accessory cones or just some other GP cones. And I'm just going to try and ram in as many of these GP cones as humanly possible, just so I know that I've got a really nice monoblock obturation. And you know, I'm just going to cut off the excess here, and then I'm just going to use my Mach 2 pluggers just to give it a good old push down. What you might find with palatal canals, though, if you push this down too far, the Mach 2 plugger slips past the GP and goes into the space where there's bioceramic sealer. And it's the same protocol with the other canals. What you might notice is I am actually using a special type of GP cone. I am using not matched GP cones, because with the mini cut series of files and the tooth saver series of files, you don't get these matched cones you would with say like a a Wave 1 Gold or a High Flex. So in this case, what I've been using is an O3 tapered file system, and I'm using O3 tapered GP cones. But if you use just normal generic O3 tapered GP cones, obviously as it reaches up, as the length of the GP cone increases, the diameter is going to increase quite significantly. So these particular GP cones, they have a maximum diameter of 1 millimeter. So there is a taper on these GP cones, but as they reach a diameter of 1 millimeter, they don't increase in size anymore. Now, this is really, really, really important if you're doing these minimal preps, especially with bioceramic sealer, because the one thing that you want to ensure is that you've got an escape hatch for the sealer. So if you're doing these really, really tiny minimal preps, and then you fill the canal space with sealer, and then you're using a GP cone which is essentially fitting the canal space perfectly, what will happen is you won't have any way of the sealer to escape as you're pushing the GP cone to length, and you're going to get this kind of vapor lock. And this is important because you've got a really, really thin GP cone, so this can sometimes concertina the GP cone at the end. You're not going to get an adequate obturation. You're just going to tear your air out, essentially. So what you need is a smaller tapered cone ready so the sealer can kind of escape around the sides. And when we look at the obturation here, I mean, it looks gorgeous, looks beautiful. You've got this huge palatal canal that's been obturated adequately, and then also you've got these two tiny distabuccal and mesibuccal canals, which is, when you're using these smaller tapered files, you get to see the kind of anatomy of the tooth a little bit more. So you've got this DB here, which you've kind of got this sort of sweeping S shape, and we've got a nice little bit of a sealer puff at the end. But overall, really, really happy with this result. This looks absolutely beautiful. And I'd just like to thank you for watching today. If you have any comments or criticisms, we get plenty of criticisms. Please comment in the section below. It's all about the learning here. I want you to, if you think something's been done wrong, let's spark a debate. And as ever, just like and subscribe. Really, really easy way to support the channel. If you want to support the channel even more, we've got a membership program. The membership program is a small monthly fee. It's run by YouTube, and you get to support the channel. It keeps me independent, but also you get early access to content. So if you just can't get enough of these videos, if you join the membership program, you get to see these videos early on, and I usually work about 3 weeks ahead. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next week in the next video. Bye bye.